and welcome to Amphlett Reviews. This is a channel update / topic video on some disappointing Hong Kong movies. I will get to that in a minute. Don't worry guys, I'm not going anywhere. I've actually invested in a wireless microphone, which you might see on the shirt there. I've actually picked one up from Amazon, which hopefully will help in terms of better audio quality for the videos. I've listened to some of the feedback and some of the recent comments from new subscribers, old subscribers, and I do agree the audio from the videos isn't the best. I try and make it the best I possibly can. Being the fact I record these videos on my phone, and my phone has the best camera from the Samsung phone, and I figured let's try and match the audio to the same level, and hopefully the next content of videos moving forward will be a better experience for you and for myself in terms of my presentation, in terms of getting these videos out there. So I am definitely invested in doing more content. I'm going to be doing a lot more videos in the next couple of weeks or so. Now, the reason I wanted to do this kind of channel update is basically one of the things I do keep honest about what I do in terms of my exploring Hong Kong content and keeping honest with you guys in terms of my feelings. Now, a movie is a movie at the end of the day. Whether I like it or don't like it, I'm going to be completely honest. Whether it's like an amazing, 5 out of 5, whether it's absolutely like bottom of the barrel, terrible, I will kind of place the film somewhere in between that kind of ranking in that sense. And, I'm not giving it a score necessarily on these videos, but I am being very honest in terms of my feelings. And, I won't, I can love an edition from Eureka 88 Films or Vinegar Syndrome, all these fantastic great editions, but if the film itself is not great or it's just kind of mediocre or a bit disappointing, as it hints to the video, then, I'm going to be honest about that, and I've been very honest with a lot of the videos I've done up to this point. Now, one of the reasons I want to do this video a little bit of a topic is that I have watched quite a few Hong Kong movies recently, over the span of like the past month or so, from brand new releases like Eureka and 88 Films and all that kind of thing. And I've been very disappointed with the output recently, and I'm finding myself picking up almost every title and getting like smash hits, and maybe one or two might be a bit bad here in between, or just not really for me in a sense. But I've been very more selective recently. There's been a lot of titles that I've just not picked up because I'm hearing different kind of opinions, or I'm not looking to look at the clips or the scenes, or I'm just kind of getting that kind of like kind of vibe. Being the fact these editions are like between £15 to £20 in the UK, not counting for any kind of foreign imports from like Vinegar Syndrome, things like that kind of thing. It's expensive, and I'm thinking to myself, is it worth me picking up a film, watching it, not really liking it, doing a negative video, and then selling it on eBay to put towards another one that could be very similar to me liking it? And I don't want to keep doing that, and I don't want to spend time making a bad necessarily review on a film that maybe people love or necessarily people are going to be rave about. It could be the odd one in that kind of bunch. And I found that with the recent kind of couple of movies that I have watched, where I'm thinking, I don't really want to review this. I don't really want to talk about this. I'm happy to have a discussion. Maybe that could be something. But there's no point me doing 6 videos in a row where I'm saying bad, good, disappointing, whatever. I just don't want to do that. It's just not fun. I want to talk about films that I actually really enjoy or really passionate about. And there'll be some times where I will be honest in terms of my opinion. But that's where I'm kind of going with this in terms of this discussion. And I want to start doing selective kind of Hong Kong movies that I do watch and talk about the ones that I think are just absolutely fantastic and ones that I recommend, or even the ones that are somewhat middling, but I have something interesting to say about in my own kind of take, in my own kind of, fresh perspective on it. And that's where I kind of want to lead towards. And through that, I also want to dive a bit more into other kind of cinema, and I've been dipping my toe into it a bit more here and there kind of thing. I want to dive more into Japanese movies. I want to dive into more French movies and Korean movies, and there's a lot of movies in my collection that I have not talked about, and directors that I absolutely love, but I want to discuss on the channel. And there's other, American directors and English directors that I want to talk about as well. So I'm going to try and venture into some other aspects outside of Hong Kong, as well as keeping the channel mainly Hong Kong cinema at the same time. So there will be a slight shift in some of the kind of content that I will be providing. But if you're wondering, Andrew, why have you talked about that latest kind of Eureka release? A lot of my fellow kind of Hong Kong reviews are in the Asian Cinema Circle group do a fantastic job of covering a lot of the kind of the main ones, and they really dive into a lot deep into those films and have a bigger history and bigger understanding. In fact, they grew up at the time with those films, or they're discovering it the first time, similar to myself. And they do a fantastic job, and I will put my opinion in there from time to time. But I don't want to talk about films that I don't particularly like anymore. It's a bit negative, and I want to keep the channel a bit fun, and I want to keep it light at the same time, not having 6 movies in a row where I'm just basically saying these are all just not good films. I mean, unless you guys really want that, I mean, I don't think that's particularly good content personally. Now, I have watched some movies recently, and I'm going to discuss it on this video, and then that's it. I'm not going to review these films. I'm not going to dive into them more. If you want to have a discussion, please comment down below, and we'll have a discussion, and we'll have a deep dive, or if you want to do a live stream or something, maybe talking about these could be quite fun. But I've watched about 6 movies, about 6 Hong Kong movies recently, past month or so, and all these films are mixed between bad, okay, disappointing, and just kind of a one-off, or not really something I really want to discuss further, and I don't want to do particular individual videos for these. So I'm going to discuss them here very briefly, and if you want to put your thoughts and opinions in the comment below, I'd love to know your thoughts, but this is just a generalized kind of just thoughts and opinions off the top of my head of these films. So the first one is The Blade, a Troy Hogg film. It's a remake of The One-Armed Swordsman. I watched this a little while ago, really did not like it. This was not a good film in the slightest. It's very misguided, doesn't understand what made the original One-Armed Swordsman movie actually good. Characters are just kind of meh kind of thing. The changes in the scenarios compared to the original white film is just not really well done. There's a lot of questions I have with that film, and it's very kind of self-indulgent, very kind of, overly artsy and overly kind of, deliberately kind of stylized, and it doesn't do anything. It's more style than substance, and I think the characters are boring. I think the action is such all over the place in terms of the editing, in terms of where it's kind of presented. I just didn't enjoy it, and it's a shame because I heard really high regarded reviews and really high regarded kind of feedback from that film. Next up is Black Mask, a Jet Li film. I watched the Hong Kong version. Again, just kind of disappointing. I know it's a bit of a risk factor in that one kind of thing. It's a very early 2000s film. It's practically a poor version of Universal Soldiers. Universal Soldiers was actually a great film to begin with anyway. This is a kind of a knockoff version of that, and it kind of doesn't know what it wants to be. It's not particularly that engaging. The action comes so far late into the film, and I didn't really find it that great. It's got some good moments in between, granted. There's some stuff I do like. I like Jet Li, he's cool, but this is a very early 2000s type film, and it does not work. Even with the Hong Kong version, it just kind of feels lifeless. It feels like a drag. Nothing's really interesting to kind of get behind this world. I love the Anthony Wong cameo. That was a cool sequence, but very disappointing overall, and I just kind of like, meh, that was a waste. Oh well. I watched 2 Jimmy Wan Yu films recently as well, one being the Rika release from Beach of the War Gods. That was better, but not great at the same time, and I know some of the other fellow YouTubers have reviewed this and covered this, and they love this film. Brilliant, love it. Inspired obviously from the Seven Samurais and a lot of Japanese influence, and Jimmy Wan Yu venturing out. It's very cool. I actually like all the stuff, the first hour of the film. I actually like the build-up more than the actual conclusion, because the last kind of 45 minutes of the film is just non-stop fights, and you think that's cool and that's great, but you've got to change it up. You've got to do something interesting, or you've got to introduce a new kind of element, or change up the fights, or it's a repeated over and over and over again of the same type of back and forth action fight scenes that it doesn't really go anywhere, and it kind of gets a little bit boring. So it's one of the reasons why I have a bit issues with Jimmy Wan Yu movies in general. And if you watch my previous videos on him, you know my thoughts and opinions of them. Apart from the One-Armed Swordsman movies 1 and 2, I think they're the exception, because you've got a brilliant, legendary Shaw Brothers director holding those movies and kind of using Jimmy Wan Yu's skill sets to advantage for the character, where these movies are Jimmy Wan Yu all venturing on himself, directing this film. It's quite interesting on the Blu-ray edition, one of the extras on it basically says this film is not particularly great. Historian to basically talk about this film and Jimmy Wan Yu and kind of give him a little bit of a bad rap. It's kind of funny. I watched Master of the Flying Guillotine. I know that's meant to be one of the best kind of low-budget, cheap Jimmy Wan Yu movies when he did, and it's meant to be like, obviously taking the Flying Guillotine kind of series and taking it to a different level, and some good stuff in there. Granted, I love the Flying Guillotine stuff. I love the opening with the Master. It's meant to be a sequel to The One-Armed Boxer, which I didn't particularly like that film either. I just think it was just, again, okay. The problem with Jimmy Wan Yu movies, and I've said this quite a few times, he's practically a Terminator. He's invincible. He doesn't have much of a character. He's just an unstoppable machine, and it works for some movies. It works for some actors and characters, but with his ones, not so much. And some of the actual practical effect nature and some of the fights were pretty cool. But this really dull, really boring section, this tournament that takes a good portion of the goddamn film, is so kind of, it's just like, where's this all this cool stuff? I've been promised. You've got a great opening sequence with the master kind of setting up. He's coming back. He's blind. He's got the flying guillotine weapon. And he's going to wreak havoc on the one-on boxer kind of thing. It's great. You've got the school sequence, teaching his students about the ways of his kind of teachings, and you get this really kind of dull, really dragging sequence in the middle of the film. It's just kind of disappointing. I watched Rich and Famous, Chung Yong Fat. I did get that Eureka double bill set. Rich and Famous was so goddamn boring and so unengaging. It's kind of shocking. It's a nearly 2-hour movie and nothing happens in the film. It's trying to be this really kind of stoic kind of try-out kind of gangster drama, and we'll sprinkled action moments in it and the character study. I love those types of films, especially with the Infernal Affairs series. But this one did not work for me at all. It was so dull to watch, and the characters were just, again, meander. The potential where they could go is really great, and I love the confrontation between the two brothers. This kind of like family that's really struggled for what they've had to earn, and they're kind of diving into this kind of world of kind of tryout kind of gangs, and there's some good stuff in there. I get this potential in there. And Chung Yong Fat does his best to kind of really kind of hold the film together. But ultimately, the film, I did not give a shit. I did not care. And I so much so that I didn't even bother watching the sequel. So, Tragic Hero, I believe it is. Is that any good? It's a 90-minute film. Is it better? I don't know. I didn't watch it. I was out. I was done. I watched Biozombie from the director of the IP Man movies. I kind of like the director. The director's pretty cool. He's got an interesting kind of filmography from what I can see. I haven't got around to watching Bullets over the summer yet. But Biozombie, again, it's meant to be like a bit of the first proper zombie film for Hong Kong, and it's very influential. It's early Shaun of the Dead. It's kind of the youth, Hong Kong youth at the time, set in this kind of mall, and videotapes and games and movies, and it's got a really kind of cool flavor to it, which I really do appreciate. And you can tell that this has been inspired by other movies, vice versa. He's inspired from movies beforehand, and movies are taking inspiration from this film, and it takes so goddamn long to get to the point, to get to it. And when you have a pretty good introduction, I'm liking these kind of like little sleazy kind of characters, that the whole setup with the viruses and this Lucasade bottle in pop, that's pretty funny. It feels very kind of video game-ish kind of thing, very kind of early, kind of cheesy kind of B-movie. But it takes so long to get to the zombie stuff. And the zombie stuff's fun, it's fine, and I am invested in some of the characters and where they're going, but again, meanders, and then it just kind of becomes a bit boring to watch after a while. You got to keep the film fresh, you got to keep it engaging. I think the film needs to be structured a little better. I like the ending to that film. I actually think it's a pretty good ending. And the last one is actual Visual Secret, which I do have the Blu-ray for, which I actually like this one the most out of the 6 I think I watched. It's pretty good. It's not perfect. It's got some problems in it, for sure. But I do think it's all kind of one-off. I think that's one of the better ones. I was actually going to do a review for that separately, but I figured there's not much I want to kind of add that has already been said already for the other channels. Impressive film for the low-budget nature of it, and again, very experimental, very risky. It's kind of got more of a Japanese kind of feel towards that, with a lot of the kind of the pulse and ring kind of thing. And there's some good stuff in there. I might kind of revisit that at some point to kind of see how I feel, but one of the better movies that I've watched, but not something that I really wanted to talk about. I want to create more positive content. I want to create content that is going to be a bit of a journey. I want to finish off the Wong Kar-wai series. We're talking about the Mr. Vampire series, and there will be some highs and lows, and there will be some good films and bad films and great films in there. But I want to venture out into kind of other kind of foreign cinema and talk about some movies in my collection that I absolutely love. I want to discuss with you guys, and so there will be a slight change up, I think, soon as I get time. What are your thoughts and opinions on those films that I have discussed? Please comment down below. Do you completely disagree with me, saying, Andrew, you're crazy, that these films are great, they're amazing, they're masterpieces? Why are they great? Why are they masterpieces? Please comment down below. I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions of them. Let's create a little bit of discussion. I want to continue on the Johnny To films, which I know you guys have been really enjoying, and I've been really enjoying watching these films for the very first time, and just trying to get access to those is very difficult. And any other movies that I might kind of check out between now and the end of the year, in terms of new releases, I will discuss and I will have a think about if I want to discuss them and kind of talk about more on the channel. So please stay tuned. So in the meantime, guys, I'm for reviews. Signing out.